how many bodies is okay for you to say you want to wife her? That was a question that I asked Grape, because how many of y'all are okay with the girl who just been smashed by all kinds of dudes when you like, man, that's about to be my honey though. She about to be the mother of my children. I'm about to how many, because we have a tendency, especially as men, to say, hey, listen, I gotta make sure I gotta figure this out, I gotta make sure I can do. But how many women would you want to bring into your life who also had somebody like you experiment on them to see if she was smashable or not, and this was good? How many of y'all would? Because we would call her a hoe. Let's just be honest. She would just be a hoe.
Be out there.
But how many of y'all?
Tell him I got the juice.
So Buddy says his max is probably 3.
3. Why 3? I'm curious to know why it's 3.
Tell me why 10.
Tell me why 10, man. I'm just not gonna lie to y'all. I just wouldn't want to come behind no 10 dudes. I'm just being honest with you. That's just me, though. That's me. That's the old cat. I'm just not trying to come from behind no 10 dudes.
Yeah, I'm curious to know that too. And I love Luke. He said it's a great question. My number is definitely 0, but I'd still date someone with 1 to 2 to see who they are everywhere else. I love that. I love that, Luke. Here's something that I think is so interesting, because again, we're talking about things that are just bigger than the physical. It's so much deeper. There are so many things in the activity of that is transferred, and it's more than just fluid. So it's like there are people who have literally, and it's kind of crazy because now that I think about it, I have witnessed some of it and I didn't even know it at the time. You can have a encounter with somebody, of course, not know everything about them, what they're wrestling with, what they're dealing with, and you come back from that encounter with things you didn't even have prior to it that isn't even physical transmitted diseases. You picked up depression from that ninja, legit. Like, and it might sound crazy, but like, you weren't depressed and filled with anxiety and all this kind of stuff. So to come behind 10 people, man, I feel like for me, that's tough, but that's just me. Yeah, definitely challenging. Definitely challenging.
I'm gonna throw something in there just to give us stuff to think about. Like everything you guys are saying, like I feel, and that's actually really classic Dion to think that. And I can't really go back in time to know if I would actually execute on this. Kind of like I haven't had someone like run up in my face and talk real crazy. But I feel like if they did, I would be loving, And so if y'all were to tell me, like, what would someone do if they was in my face talking crap? Like, I have this advice I give you. I haven't tested it recently yet, though. And I have similar advice for everyone. Like, for example, Luke. I like what Luke just said. Basically, he was like, I don't know if I could be with any girl that's not at 0. And even what PD said, what y'all are saying, like, 10 dudes, like that is difficult, man.
It's not impossible. It's just difficult.
No, I feel you. Yeah, I feel you.
And consider too, like the context that we're in today too. And there's a lot of stories behind it too. So I can, there's
like context.
So context to, well, I'm not saying that there's we just go for anything. I just think it's important to potentially maybe even understand why the count is so high.
There you go.
How many encounters did this person have? What were they going through? Because that stuff does have a way of driving you to those places, because in a lot of ways you would want to feel anything than what you're feeling in that moment. And so you'll go to those places. So there is a part of me that I wouldn't necessarily completely just, oh, heck no, like you need to get out my messages. But because I don't know, is it concerning? Yeah, I think first thought, but there is some room to understand context and story behind those decisions, and what took place there.
Yeah, exactly. And especially as men, I think that can be a difficult one though, just because of like where our head goes. Like, bro, that's just nasty. Like, I don't want to do that, but I just don't want anyone here to limit who they marry based off of their body count, because you need to be looking at the sum of the person. Yeah, of course, you're not excited about your wife's past, but because of that, that allows her to be a really phenomenal woman in the here and now. And we're super okay with us as men having those lessons and learning in those ways and having like, oh yeah, I got a pass, but I'm good in these areas, or like not letting any of our past disqualify us. but a girl can't have like anybody's, especially for Luke. Like, there are going to be so many amazing women that, like, if, and I don't know how we would quantify, and that's sometimes that's the problem when we try to quantify it in our in our human perspective. But like, if I could zoom Luke out and look at all of his character traits, he probably hopefully goes into his marriage, right? A virgin. He can find a wife that's a virgin, but let's say he found a wife that wasn't a virgin and he was, I could find the equivalent of whatever she did wrong, right? With her character. Like, we know she shouldn't have been out there, but I could find the equivalent in Luke's character. And again, it's probably not, but you know, when we're looking at God and his law and how he set things up, we be violating it too, sometimes knowingly. And we'll just want to take their past and hold it up on a pedestal. That is so unlike the God that we serve. And I think rightfully so, men like that miss out on amazing women. And so just keep that in mind. And I'm not trying to say go marry these hoes, because there could be a very good reason she has 10 and you want to stay away from that. I'm just saying there's so much to just say, all right, you have 10. All right, you're off the list.
Yeah.
Because
No. And Dion, stay here for a second. I love that. I do. I really love that. As difficult as it would be for me, I love that. But I'm that man who was telling Grape again, like, brother, listen, I did what I do. But I'm that guy who's like, man, I am not trying to be with you if you was one of them girls who I was doing the do with back in the day, right? Because the hurdle is I don't even know if I'm a man. I think the hurdle is the stuff that I knew that I was thinking while I was with this person. I had no feelings for you whatsoever. I'm just trying to knock the socket out this mug. That was it, right? And so there was no love there, right? There was nothing. There was nothing that I was trying to do to be like, I love you, I care about you, there's a future with you. I was like, no, you're providing something for me right now. That's it. And after this, don't even call me though. Like I'll call you. It was kind of, you understand what I'm saying? It was kind of, it was kind of there. But I will say this. Everybody, the beautiful thing about God is that God can redeem stuff. And we don't know why people have gone through those scenarios and situations. Here's the only little small caveat, D, that I would throw in there. Has this thing that it does to our brains, to our imaginations, to our mind, and women carry it differently than men. So the man who does get with this woman who's had these multiple partners, he's going to have to be mature enough to potentially navigate some trauma that she might have. And he's really going to have to be able to handle that. Because for us, we don't carry it the same way women do. We just don't. So that would be the only thing I would say about the multiple bodies. Not that person isn't marryable. Is that a word?
right, it needs to be. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Right.
But I think that trauma, that man has to be, gentle enough, kind enough, patient enough, because she might carry a lot of baggage, man. There might be some times where you might touch her in a way, and she might have a flashback of some dude who used her, and she might just go. And the reason why I'm telling y'all this, I'm telling you, years of sitting in offices with people who are married to somebody like that, and that trigger shows up, man, and she will go off. And so for her, it was the advantage, and she's remembering all of those encounters where she probably didn't want to be there, but she thought that was her way to be loved, to be accepted, to be embraced, and now it's a challenge. So that dude does have to potentially, I'm not saying that's everybody, but I have seen that in front of me more than a handful of times where a woman is triggered by those past experiences. Yep. I ain't never had a man come and tell me he was triggered, but
and I think you're right. I think I don't want to add to me like anything that sounds like a but to that, because I think that's real. And I think if you're looking at it, someone that has that experience, like that stuff you factor in, and I'm really big on trying to understand your partner's past on both sides, not even just the male to female, but even the ladies need to know. Like I'm teaching my daughters that, because your childhood is so deep, man. I actually think my wife said something really dope. We were talking about not too long ago, and she was like, it's like when me and my wife talk, I'm okay with a lot of back and forth, like asking questions. Why, is this really the best move? What are you thinking with this? Just because, and this is what she pointed out. She was like, my mom used to call me her little philosopher because anytime she would tell me something, I would just have thoughts about it, um, even down to like, boy, go clean your room. Like, and my son is somewhat like that too. He just always has something to say. But my mom allowed for that back and forth. And so I'm very comfortable in conversations where even if it's very serious, like if someone is questioning my ideas or even just has a question in general, or like I'm good with the back and forth. She didn't have a lot of time where or that same experience where she could have a lot of back and forth. Sometimes if it was in like in her household, like her parents didn't allow her to ask questions and stuff like that, and allow her to contribute ideas to the situations. And so when I'd be trying to have back and forth, she would take it completely different. And even shut down in situations. And so stuff like that sometimes guys just get mad at and again, I have my whole list of things too. Sometimes we'll just write that off and see like that's like a defect in someone or an issue. And it's just really something you just got to learn and that you and them can get past. And so, but I love what you said is like, you got to understand your capacity. Where are you at? And I think no matter where you're at, if you're trying to get married, you need to have that, not just on the lane, but that ability to just understand where they're at and understand where you're at and overcome some difficulties. So
yeah, I love that. I think one of the things that comes to my mind, I don't know if y'all have heard of Brittany Renner.
IG model.
Yeah, IG model for sure.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I actually got a lot of flack for saying this like over a year or some change ago. She was definitely a name thrown around a lot in the red pill community early on, as a woman to, be aware of and stay away from. Okay. So she was used as that huge example, especially with Fresh and Fit's kind of big, upcoming. So anyway, long story short, man, she has like 35 bodies. Right. So she's been out there, been around. Dudes are out here trying to establish, and this is the mindset, and I'm glad we're talking about this. Hey, if she has X amount of bodies, she's no longer valuable. Right. That's the biggest problem I have. And of course, that's not what we're saying at all in this conversation. But that's really where they go. They say, well, her body count is so high. She's been with a lot of men. She has Brittany now has a kid. I don't know how many kids, but I know she has one with the NBA player. So hey, she has a child. She's got a high body count. So hey, she just needs to go back and get with the ex that cheated on her because she's not going to get anything better. Because nobody is actually going to pick up with that. And that's their whole point behind, hey, women want to, explore in their 20s, come back in their 30s and settle down. That's not right to us men, but they're counterintuitive. Their response to that is let's just go do what the women are doing in their 20s and match the energy, come back in our 30s and we both be hoes coming back, trying to figure out what's up. So the flack I got was like, bro, you need to have grace. And that's kind of the mindset that I'm almost having with this. Again, not to say that I have to now, therefore, get with you, right? Like, because there's a lot that goes into that, especially like we're talking about literal health protocols that we might need to go through, right? So I'm not just going to take your side and get with you because I want to show grace and be forgiving and loving, right? Like, that's not the point. But I do want to get an understanding behind why that was something that was such a decision or repetitive decision for you, right? What drove you there? What took you there? And actually having a lot of grace. Somebody in the chat, I believe it was Sam Goded, who said, bro, so like I got zero, like I don't got no bodies. So like, how am I even able to kind of measure that up and get over my wife's past mentally, knowing that she's got bodies and, well, I didn't do that. And so I came in and honored my half of the deal. So like she ain't do that. And I think again, like just I saw a lot of comments in there, so I don't want to really reiterate, but yeah, there's a necessity to have grace in those moments. And I think we need to I feel like as believers, especially, I think there's a necessity to be graceful outwardly, like just more outspoken with grace towards individuals in that category. Because it's not, they don't lose value as a human being because of the body count they have. Because that's not how God sees them, even in the midst of them doing all of that. And so it doesn't mean that they're not valuable or they're not available for marriage or they have to settle for whatever that comes their way because they're not going to get the right kind of person that they're looking for. I just think that there's a necessity to really share a lot of grace in that. That's kind of one of the things I got flack for sharing for Brittany Renner, because I was like, man, she got on that podcast and was saying a lot of good stuff. Like really, I mean, regardless of her profile, she has continued to go on platforms and says a lot of good stuff that is overlooked because homegirl's got a high body count. There's just a lot of things that she says that makes sense in terms of, man, like, I don't lose my value because of that. Like that I think you have to make room to consider the baggage of the individual that you're getting with. Like that, those are conversations that you should be having. In your dating experience, I'm not saying it's got to be the first conversation. Hopefully it's not, but it is a conversation that's necessary, because if this is somebody that I'm pursuing a marriage with and I'm wanting to do life with, raise a family with, I kind of want to know these things. And you have to give me, this is the risky part about love that so many people are just kind of against because of hurt wounds, but it's a necessity to get. You have to give me the same brevity to choose you, like you, you know what I'm saying? Like you want me to give you the same space for you to choose me. Like you want to know as much as possible to make that decision, because this isn't just something that we're just going to get together and then we can just call it off whenever. No, there's a whole heck of a painful process that we got to go through if that's the case. So I'm literally intertwining my life with you. These are worlds colliding here. So yeah, I want to know that. And the riskiness is, man, like, man, if she hear that, man, if she hear I got all this, if he hear I got all this, man, shoot, it might be up for me. But I would rather have that choice than have that be a surprise in the marriage. Have that be a surprise, and then so many other things come with it. And then again, depending on how we navigate it, where do we go from here? So it is a risky part, but a necessary conversation to have. I think that's the stuff that we need to talk about. Because sitting here talking about our favorite this and favorite that all day, I don't think we're getting anywhere. I ain't gonna lie to you. But those are some thoughts, man, on that, because there's a lot of people who are in that space and they feel as if they're inadequate, not valuable, or that they don't have anything to offer because of their body count. And I don't think that that's true. But you do have to be mindful of that, aware of that, to know exactly what you guys said, have the capacity to know what you can contain and deal with, because that's a lot of work, for real. A lot of work. So there's some questions in here. I don't know if you guys wanted to touch on Sam Godet's question on kind of like his standard being set at 0. So he kind of answered the question too, like, hey, my standard is at 0 because I'm at 0. And so he was kind of trying to figure out how do I get over that mental hurdle if my wife has a past and I'm coming in squeaky clean.
What Dion
That's
said.
not. Oh yeah.
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I don't think that's bad. Like, I think that's good to try to have standards, and of course that would be ideal to look for. But then also just make sure, like, that isn't this is another way of saying everything that Grape said. There's so much more that a woman needs to bring versus a 0 body count to a marriage. And there's so much more that you need to bring versus a 0 body count. So some guys, their only strength is that they have a 0 body count. And that would be a problem, because there's so much more you need. And so just look at her in the same light. So when you're struggling, like, oh, she doesn't have a 0 body count, well, what else does she have? And if she doesn't check the boxes other places, well, then yeah, that might not be the person for you. But realize, as long as you've gone through some of the practical things we've talked about, like, there's no STDs that you're dealing with, and you feel like you have a reasonable handle on where that past has left her mentally, and she's not like really damaged from it, and you want to move forward with that, or even if she is, if it's something you can handle, cool. And then, like, I think it's more just about understanding that. And if there's no real like physical problems that you're getting into, a lot of it is just a problem that you're creating in your head. It's like, and some of these stories that you might be telling yourself is like, it's just nasty for you to think about, or it's like, dang, she had guys, are they better than me? And if you can get past the mental challenges that you're creating on your own, then you can see the value that she actually has. And so it's another way of kind of repackaging everything that we said, but she could have 0 as her body count, but still be a horrible prospect for you as a wife. So it's so much more than that.
Yeah, 1000%. So much more. And then the part about it being a trip up is honestly, it stems from a real social media standard, a real cultural standard that I think is important, that we kind of do better at navigating and trying to really figure out, okay, well, what is really bad about that? Because what's crazy is a lot of times all you got to do is put yourself in their shoes just to really learn how you would want to be treated in that space and how you would want to be given a fair opportunity. Like, because if you revealed your body count to a female on numerous dates or numerous first dates or whatever, and all of them kept running from you, you would not only be hesitant to reveal that, but there's a lot of mental, psychological stuff that will start happening to you as a result of that being, the case. And so I kind of just want to put yourself in those shoes. Like, nah, I mean, yeah, I made some decisions. I stand on those decisions, whether it was something I willingly did or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
But I want to be, human beings are designed to love and be loved. And I am not in the wrong, nor am I disqualified from experiencing that the right way due to my past. Like that, I don't think I can get behind a message where we kind of, I'm not saying that you're tossing them to the side, but they're just no longer available for certain things in your mind because of their past. I think that's something that we got to look at, because who they are now may be different from who they were in their past. They might have actually done the healing, done the group work, done the growth to be able to understand their decisions, what influenced their decisions in the past, and they've healed from that. Right. And yes, you might still have to face a little bit of stuff with it. Of course, I'm not trying to say you got to put up with STDs and all that kind of stuff, but I'm saying more so the psychological, traumatic kind of things. You might have to put up with that. But I'm just saying, I hope your expectation in a lot of ways isn't that you're going to find somebody who has no kind of traumatic experiences or no kind of story or history with their life that has affected them up to this point, because you're not going to find anybody like that. And you actually, even though you might have even lived a more maybe, I want to say, I don't know if I want to use clean, maybe a more quiet life from those scenes, you still have some stuff in you that you want to work through and put yourself in the best position to be prepared for. And so those are other things to add to that for sure. You know what I mean? Because we're dealing with people at the end of the day, people who have a soul, spirit, heart, that want to experience those things. I like a lot of what Dion said. Don't let that body count number be something that keeps you from at least giving it an opportunity to see who this person is now. If that's who they still are, then by all means, please separate.
However, I will say this. If I already know that's a deal breaker and I'm not willing to investigate that,
right.
Don't waste your time, because then I think it's not fair to the other person to get to know them and then go through the whole process of unknowing them. Because if you're already like, hey, listen, I feel you, I hear you, you might be the best thing since sliced bread, you may have been transformed, did the whole thing or whatever, whatnot. That's just a lot for me to overcome. Okay, well then cool. Just be honest with yourself about that situation, because and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If that's you, if you're like, hey, this is something I can't, then I think you're fine making that decision. I think you're wrong if you engage that person to go through discovery and then you go, yeah, that's just not going to work. You kind of knew that ahead of time because you already had a predisposition to whether or not 10 bodies was a lower enough count of bodies for you in that scenario or situation. So I think that's a good way to really consider that.
Hey, listen, if you stuck to the end of this from the bottom of my heart, thank you oh so much. If you want to hear more of these kinds of conversations in this format, please check the description below. There you will find a link to sign up for a Maverick membership. This is where the Truth Project sessions go down every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, where you can be a part of conversations just like the one I shared in this video. Your worldview is welcome, no matter what worldview you come from, and we're all there pursuing one goal: truth. Check the link in the description, sign up, 3 days for free. After that, it's $9.99 a month, but you'll get your money's worth and then some. I'll see you over there, and until next time, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Peace.